Hi, this is Hannah, and like many artists, I really struggle with the idea of having a style. I feel like what makes my art truly mine, what makes it different than other people's, or something that makes it unique to me. So I feel like the most common advice that I hear is to make more art. So I decided to try doing that in 2023 by creating my own 100-day project. So as I've been showing on the screen, I've made a lot of sketches over the years, but I've never really found any particular art style despite the amount of work that I've made. So I thought with a more specific 100-day challenge that I could maybe try to narrow down my goal. I was hoping to try to figure out what my art style was as my main goal. And then my secondary goal was to mainly try to practice drawing people since I tend to avoid them. Frankly, in terms of finding one art style, I definitely failed. But I will start showing you the work that I made and I will explain the rules that I set out for myself for this challenge. And maybe you can decide if you think that I maybe had a little more success than I think. So, rule number one, I decided to narrow down my subject matter. I decided I only wanted to draw or paint people, but it could be a part of a person, just a face, just a hand, or just a cropped body. Rule two, I also decided I could only use certain materials. I could use only brush and ink, I could use gouache, or I could use digital, which for me is Procreate on my iPad. I feel like this is also one of the advice for finding your style is to limit your materials. And frankly, these are my favorite ones anyway. So I figured why not just focus on these. Rule three was each work I had to make needed to be more of like a study for a finished composition. So I didn't want to just do like sketches of eyeballs or noses and things that were not like a finished piece. I really wanted to practice composition as well and trying to make things that look done. Rule four was that I didn't want this to be just about trying to do something realistic. I'm not really interested in realism, and I feel like I focus so much of my childhood and young adulthood trying to draw better, and I think instead I should have been maybe focusing on how I like to draw instead. So my first goal was I wanted to find like how I liked to make people, maybe how I like to stylize them, and in this way I thought I would maybe find my art style. And my second goal was to some of it was just like practical, like I wanted to get more comfortable drawing people in different poses. So I also tracked this challenge on my Instagram and my Reels. I started it in March of 2023. So if you're interested in seeing like some time lapse footage of my paintings, you can check it out there. I'll put the link in my description. So at the end of the day, after these 100 days, was I successful? I think in the case of goal one, finding an art style, that no, I wasn't really successful. I still feel like my art is kind of all over the place. But let's look at my work together and maybe you can see a more of a common thread than I can. All right, let's check it out. reaching the end of this challenge, and as you can see that I made a lot of different art, and I think I made a lot more finished pieces than I've ever made before, but I don't think that they're all very cohesive. However, I would like to go through some of the sets that I feel like I made that were kind of similar, and we'll talk about those. So first, I really enjoyed what I call my tiny girls or my butterfly girls. I feel like both of these have a very similar feeling. I just love making them very tiny, and I love having the kind of whimsical look of these, and they're very simple. I like to really simplify the ladies into just black and no shading, but then their surroundings are in color and shaded. And I recently made a piece that I think is similar in this style that I'm really in love with, and I think I would like to continue with this idea. And I finished them very quickly, which I also enjoy. Next, I really enjoyed making gouache paintings with black backgrounds. Really, I just loved the first two ones that I made, and I tried to replicate it later on in my challenge. Frankly, I don't think they quite work as well, which is weird. But in the past, I've always been a little timid about using black in particular, especially any kind of dark color, but especially black. But I really enjoyed kind of this loose look of these black paintings, and I liked the contrast. Next, I think my digital work is pretty cohesive overall because I tend to use the same brushes and the same colors. So I feel like all of these work together pretty well across the board. If you go on my website, those are the primary works on my portfolio because I think they all kind of go together very well. Lastly, I have a lot of paintings that were just black, and some of them I later colorized digitally. I think even though these are all very different themes, I feel like they all kind of work together. Like the beret woman and the wolf girl, I think still kind of work in the same idea. And I'm also think of coloring them later on Photoshop. As you can see, I colored the black hands later on Photoshop, but I might revisit this again later. I really enjoy working this way because it's quick, and then I don't have to think about the colors until later. So these are all four styles that I've enjoyed doing. Do they go together? To me, it still seems like no. It seems like a different style. And I still tried other ways of paintings that I really enjoyed that I just didn't have as much time to explore and I'd like to go back to. Is that okay? Like, can I still be a successful illustrator with all this different kind of work? What do you think? Or is it not as different as I think? Because sometimes you need the outside perspective to get an idea about your own work. I definitely did learn about what I like. I definitely prefer drawing women. I only made 2 men during this challenge, and both of them were hybrid male animals, and they both were not very good. I think they were some of the worst ones I've made. So in the end, I learned a lot about how I like to work, but I failed in finding a style 100%. Well, for now, I'm just going to keep exploring, and I'm not going to let that upset me too much, but I think I'm going to try another 100-day challenge later on this year. Thank you for watching. Bye.